When I announced the Pageant Ombudsman service, so basically someone who would go into bat for you if something had gone wrong in the pageant industry, I wasn't sure how it would be received. I had a feeling that a lot of people would be behind it. I also had a feeling that even if people wanted to support it or say it was a good idea, that they'd be too afraid to support it because that would implicitly be stating that they believed that a service like that was necessary, which, let's face it, you only need the ombudsman when something's gone wrong or negatively. So it was, to my surprise, but to my great satisfaction, that so many people responded to it saying that it was a great service or a great idea. And, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that everyone thinks it's a great idea. But the fact that as many of you responded as well as you did, or as positively as you did, sort of gave me hope that I was on the right track. But in today's episode of Sorority Stories, so this is number 19, remember we're counting down to day 0, where we'll launch the sorority to the public on Monday the 1st of November, I wanted to just briefly mention the Pageant Ombudsman service and why I really felt it was needed. And look, I'm already doing it. It was behind the scenes. I've been helping some clients of mine get what I believe is a just outcome. And I just wanted to, because I felt that that service was so needed, but also so non-existent, as in no one else was providing it, that I just felt I needed to formalize it and kind of announce it. And I decided to package it with a sorority, pretty much only because I can't take on everyone. I'm also not a huge believer in just offering things for free, because if you know anything about business, when you offer things for free, people tend to take it for granted and not utilize it to its full ability. So I built it into the sorority, and I'll only be offering it to sorority VIP members moving forwards. But that all being said, look, the fundamental idea behind the Pageant Ombudsman is that I am fundamentally, and I will tell you this if it ever changes, a neutral third party in the industry that has no affiliations or direct links to any sort of system or director or sponsor. Now, of course, I know people. You can't do what I do without knowing people. But I don't take sponsorship money from anyone. I do not promote, or I certainly not am paid to promote, either in cash or in kind, anyone's system, anyone's director, any products, frankly. And why that is important is because so many people in the industry have hidden affiliations and hidden agendas, and I feel very strongly that it lacks integrity to do business with you without disclosing my affiliations. If you think I'm overreacting, then just think about the political system and what happens if you voted for someone that was being funded, let's say, by a large coal industry magnate, or someone who was a big plastic polluter, or someone who had been found guilty of sexual assault, for example. You would want to know that, because then you probably wouldn't vote for that person, or you'd want to ask some very pointed questions. However, what I have found in the pageant industry is that it's very top-heavy, and this is another thing that I dislike, and I'll be talking about it in a future episode, but this idea that the power triangle is upside down. If you think of Uber or Yelp, things like that, the consumer largely has the power. Think about it. If you, let's say, leave a Yelp review, the restaurant that, let's say, you leave a negative review about doesn't have the power to sort of come after you and silence you or cancel you. Now, that's not to say they may not argue back, and that's not to say that other people on Yelp might not jump in and argue with you and defend the restaurant, but it's the consumers that have the ultimate power. There's just one restaurant, and the consumers, you're going to see the average of whether it's a 5-star review or something similar to that, the overwhelming sort of public opinion as to how good this restaurant is. Now, that, I believe, is the power hierarchy the right way up, where the consumers are put first. The interests of the consumer are put first. Now, if you think about it in the pageant industry, that triangle, it exists, but it's the other way round. And this has been my lived experience. So if a contestant has a negative experience, let's say with a director or a sponsor, you'd probably think, well, they just shouldn't compete. Well, that's not fair. They want to compete. So, all right, you want to compete, go to a different system. All right, there's not really any objective information out there as to what a good system is. There are review sites. Pageant Planet has one. But again, what happens is it's not transparent, because very often what happens, and I know this to be a fact, the person who's getting reviewed, the coach or the director, gets their minions to go and leave a positive review. Now, look, the person might deserve a positive review. That's fine. But in an industry such as ours, where it's so much who you know, and I personally don't think it has to be like that, but it's very much who you know. For example, there's an official coach for the system that you really want to win. You might try and get into a session with that private coach because you think it might give you bonus brownie points. And, you know, if that person, let's say if you are being coached by the official coach, or let's say you want to win that system in the future, and they ask you to leave a review, it's going to be few and far between the pageant contestant who would go on and leave a negative review, even if it was deserved. Now, you might say, oh, you know, well, Adrian, there's only 1% of people who want to leave a negative review. I used to believe that prior to my 4 or 5 years experience in this business, being at the coalface of the pageant industry and being that neutral third party. I'm not going to say it's 50% negative by any means, but the number of negative experiences that I've heard of and the severity of some of them really, really make it very important that we have some sort of formalized system in place where if something goes wrong, pageant contestants, young women such as yourself, don't feel silenced. They don't feel that they can't do anything or say anything for fear of reprisal. Reprisals being cancelled by the director, having that director go and tell everyone else in the pageant industry that you're a troublemaker, having sponsors say that a similar thing, or pageant coaches say a similar thing, or having other contestants spread gossip about you. And so rather than actually saying what you know to be true, you either say what you're told to say and you feel horrible about it, or you sort of take the middle road where you don't endorse them, but you just sort of play silent. And I've seen that on many times. And I've inherently known that, hey, if you just had a session with this coach, or you were just a title holder of this system, and you're not willing to put out glowing reviews about them, then inherently something is probably wrong. And unfortunately, I've found that to be true again on more occasions than I would like. So, and I want to finish with this, just to give you some examples so you know I'm not exaggerating. I have a client here in Australia who's competing in a major system, decided to organise to purchase her gown, $6,000 thereabouts, from Eastern Europe. Because this place looks huge on Instagram, right? It's sort of like the Dolce & Gabbana or the Louis Vuitton of pageant dresses. And she paid $6,000. It arrives late. And I kid you not, it's full of pins. Not safety pins, just the sort of pins that, if you just leave them on the floor and you step on them, it'll go right into your foot. Dress pins, I think they're called. Anyway, the dress was full of pins. It basically was unfinished, and what was finished was of very, very poor quality. Now, she wrote back to them. They ghosted her. She told me about it, and I decided to get involved. Now, I emailed them. I didn't tell them what I was emailing them in. I didn't tell them directly what I was referring to because I knew they'd ghosted her. But I had the feeling that when they saw who I was in terms of the pageant project, and they probably looked up, not saying that I'm a big deal, but they can sort of see that I'm a third party and have a reasonably sized following, like over 2,000 of you crazy pageant girls, in the best way possible. They obviously thought, well, I should probably respond to this guy. That's what they thought. And they responded to me very quickly and asked me, what had gone on. Then I told them the details of it once they had connected with me. And long story short, about a week later, they agreed to pay my client, reimburse my client for the repairs it took, the money it took to pay someone to get that dress into a working order. So that's one thing. Another situation I'm at the moment, it's a bizarre situation, but there's an international title holder who is in a contract that is ridiculous. I'm just going to say it on the face of it, and having read it now, I'm reading through the contract, and the director is a bit of a tyrant, and the person that she's working under, as in the director, her partner, is also probably a bit of a snake oil salesman. So I'm now having to go through the contract, and I'm in the process of contacting media, like news agencies, because some of them have investigated this snake oil salesman for fraudulent links and basically for lying, and I'm having to go through that as part of the Pageant Ombudsman service. And that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. The final one, I'll give you a third one. I could go on forever about this, but I'm not actually this person. That's the thing. I would much prefer it everyone just did the right thing. But to me, a higher value is standing up for you guys, standing up for what's just and standing up for what's fair. It's just the way I'm wired. I don't like confrontation, but sometimes you got to do it. The third example was a friend of mine made it through state finals of a large pageant, and so had the right to compete at nationals. She was told before nationals that if she wanted to compete, even though she'd won the right to and paid her monies, her entrance fees, she was told, if you want to compete, you're going to have to sell at least 3 tickets to the gala ball. Now, these tickets are about $200 to $250 Australian a pop. Mind you, we're in Corona, so a lot of people are suffering financially. And if you don't sell those, a minimum of 3 tickets, you don't get to compete. Even though she'd paid her entrance money, competed in state finals, won her right to compete nationally. And, See, I know sometimes people listen. I've had this experience. People will listen to what I'm saying and go, oh, that's, you're exaggerating, Adrian, or you just want to kick up a big fuss to get people to listen to you. I ain't that person. I don't like doing controversial posts, which is why you don't see me doing hot picks. I don't like them. I hate them. I'm sorry if you love doing hot picks. If you're a site that does hot picks, like, more power to you. But I just don't like it. I don't like being the pot stirrer. This is not about stirring the pot. This is about standing up for young women who in some cases have been physically abused, emotionally abused, financially abused, and getting justice for them so they can continue to compete in pageantry. And you might say, oh, well, they just don't compete in pageantry. That's hardly a solution. We're not talking about, let's say, one person who's treating everyone badly, so you just say don't associate with that one person. I think it is fair. I think it's more than fair to say that everyone deserves to have a chance to compete in the industry fairly without fear for their safety, whether that be emotional, physical, or financial safety. And I would find it really difficult to believe that someone didn't believe that everyone had that fundamental right. And for when it doesn't go right, Pageant Ombudsman service. And look, I frankly will be looking for someone to help me with this service, someone who's probably, it's more aligned with their nature to really dig in and get into the dirty, seedy underbelly sometimes of our industry. But until that happens, it's going to be me. That's that NSYNC song. Oh dear. But that's the Pageant Ombudsman service. And I wanted to explain it to you a little bit more in detail, my reasoning behind it. I think I've done that. Look, when we open up the Pageant Sorority to the public on the 1st of November, if you join our VIP members, and you have to pay for that, either be a small monthly fee or an annual fee. It's not going to be huge, but it's not going to be free for VIP membership. You can join the early access for free and you'll get our newsletter, and there'll be plenty of stuff in there that will really help you anyway. So if you can't do VIP or don't want to for some reason, you'll still get lots of value. But for our VIP members, I have decided, at least at the moment, to give the initial consult for the Ombudsman service for free. And we'll see how it goes. I am going to have a questionnaire there, so people have to tell me what exactly is going on. I don't want to jump on a call, to be clear, just to hear someone whinge and complain. Again, it's not me. But if there's genuinely been something that's gone wrong that you feel needs to be put right in the industry, that's that service. And I think it is needed. And I base that not only on my own gut instinct, but on the response from you guys about my post announcing it. So that's it. day 19, 19 of 20 of Sorority Stories. We'll count down to 0. If you want to join that early access, as I said, it's free. Go to thepageantsorority.com. Just enter your email address and I'll get you into the early access. Aside from that, look, if you have had any issues and you want to discuss them, then, feel free to send me a message if you think it's pressing, or you can wait until we launch the VIP membership, join up as a VIP member, and you can have that consult for free. Unless I get inundated, in which case I'll have to work out some way of filtering it. So that's it for me for now. Hope you're having an amazing day. And look, I hope you don't need this service. That's my greatest wish for you. But it is there for when you need it. And I think that if and when you need it, you'll be thankful that it exists. I'll see you tomorrow.